If your conversion rate sucks, listen in. In the next few minutes, I'm going to be breaking down how you can systematically take your conversion rate from bad to good and from good to great so you can make a lot more money out of your pre-existing traffic. Now, there's no guessing, there's no hoping, and there's no pleading, and I promise you, no one in the CRO space is talking about this one strategy we've used across 35 clients of ours internally to add an average conversion rate or add an increase of 44% in CVR. Now, before we look to optimize your conversion rate, we need to ask ourselves, what are the qualities of a good metric? And the qualities of a good metric are simple. They're actionable. When we look at conversion rates, let's say your conversion rate is 3% today, and you want to take it to 4%. What is sort of your starting ground? How do you build those pillars that can take your conversion rate from 3 to 4%? And this is why most businesses struggle. They look to change their font colors. They look to change their site hierarchy. They look to, add new elements, new social proof, new testimonials, and all that type of fun stuff. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't know what you need to optimize, you've already lost half the battle. Because you're scrambling, throwing everything at the wall, hoping something works. And hope is never a good strategy in business, let alone in CRO. So let's get into the process we use to really understand what we need to dial in on prior to making any tests, prior to making any changes. Because if you can pinpoint the biggest struggles of your website, then you've won half the battle. So when we look at a website, what is the goal of a website? Well, a website is composed of many different pages. And unfortunately, what most people don't understand is each and every one of those pages has a specific job, and the only thing you should be gauging is whether or not it's doing that job. The job of the homepage differs from the job of the product page. The job of the product page differs from the job of the cart page. The job of the cart page differs from the job of the checkout page, and the list goes on, right? So when you take that into consideration, if each and every page has different objectives, then we need to look to optimize those very objectives on those very pages, as opposed to just looking at a holistic number like your conversion rate. And this brings me to the most important topic in conversion rate optimization today, and a topic that no one is really spending time talking about, and this is called intrafunnel conversion behavior. And one thing I can promise is if you truly understand this, you can take your website from 0 to hero, your conversion rate from 3% to 4%, and a visitor who once upon a time would bounce from your site into a paying customer. This is the same process we use to really come in and optimize our clients from a CRO standpoint, because again, it's a simple process that will actually indicate where the leaky buckets on your website are, so you can pinpoint and really get the most out of those optimizations you do. So with that being said, what is intrafunnel conversion behavior? It is really just a concept of breaking down your website into a series of pages, as opposed to looking at your website with one metric that justifies whether or not it's doing the right job. It's about taking each and every one of your pages and understanding that different metrics actually justify whether or not that page is doing a good job. So let me explain in further detail. The job of the home page is completely different than the job of a product page. The job of a product page is completely different than the job of a cart page. And when you truly understand that, there's different metrics and objectives that each and one of those pages have, and that is what you should be looking at, understanding standpoint of, hey, maybe we're under indexed on this page. Maybe we're over indexed, so we don't need to allocate a lot of time, energy, and resources. But the only way you can get to that point is by understanding from an intra-funnel conversion behavior standpoint that, look, all these pages are completely different and they all serve one purpose, which is taking someone from unaware to making them into a raving fan of our products/services. But the only way you can get there is by understanding that each and every step is just building blocks to getting to that end goal. But take it one block at a time. So earlier we mentioned the importance of understanding that each and every page on your website has one job and one job only. So when we look at the job of the homepage here, it's to sell people to going to the product page. That's why we're gauging the conversion rate. Now, if you have G4A set up, you're going to be able to look at that metric and understand sort of what the drop off is from phase to phase. But in this instance, across the stores we've audited, we've seen the average rate be around 35 to 40%. So that is what we would define as good. Now, what are a few things you can do on your homepage to increase the percentage of people who actually go to your product page? Clarity of message, right? That's the most important. Clarity of your value proposition. Making sure from a hierarchy standpoint, you can take someone from unaware to a point where they have some type of interest, building that intent prior to actually getting to the product page. And making sure you display all your core products, right? If we look at the 20-80 rule, 20% of your products generate 80% of your revenue. Making sure those products are visibly clear, and if you can, highlighting some of the core drivers to why people are so interested in those products. Make sure from a structural standpoint, everything you include on your homepage is for top of funnel, people who are not aware of who you are and what you do. Those are a few things we've seen contribute to increasing the percentage of people who go from homepage to product page. Now moving on, if we're looking to optimize the percentage of people who go from product page to the cart page, we've seen the average conversion rate be around 11 to 18%. That is what we call good. 11 to 18%. Now, this differs per industry. We've seen in the fashion industry, this number be upwards of 25 to 30%. Because again, the propensity to click on a store where there's a lot of clothing, especially across a female demographic, is much higher. So just take that into consideration when looking at this metric. Now, what are a few things you can do to increase the percentage of people who go from product page to cart page? Making sure the benefits of your products are very clear. I always say benefits sell, features tell. Focus on the benefits, right? Make sure you have a lot of social proof. And social proof comes in many different forms. Make sure from an offer standpoint, your offer is irresistible. So making sure if you can add bonuses, if you can add an ebook, if you can add, buy one, get one free, anything that would incentivize someone from a first purchase standpoint to really take that next step. Also, the visual hierarchy of your page is going to be very important. Just making sure that, from a readability standpoint, everything is clear. There's not too much text. It's not too overwhelming, and just highlighting some of those key points that will facilitate a decision. From an element standpoint, sort of how you build out the page, the layout itself, there's really two things you need to do. You need to ask yourself, how can I increase motivation to give people enough reason to buy then and there? And two, how do I reduce the anxiety one would have when it comes to purchasing these products? Building on that product page, just make sure you answer all the objections one has. And from just a messaging standpoint, really follow what we call the alchemy of sales, which is, look, I'm at this undesired state right now, and I have this desired state I want to be at. Position your product, your solution as the bridge in between. And if you can visibly, without a shadow of a doubt, communicate that on the product page, you've sold them on clicking that add to cart button. And that is, again, the goal of the product page. Now that you've sold someone on clicking the add to cart and they've gone into your cart page, the job of the cart page is to get people to the checkout page. The average number we've seen is around 40 to 45%. That is what we would deem as good. So what are a few optimizations that can take place on your cart page to increase the percentage of people who go from cart to checkout page? One is making sure you have your unique selling proposition front and center, right? Making sure you also de-risk the purchase with money back guarantees. Very, very important. Making sure your call to action is very visible. It has directional cues that will take people to that next step. And you can also gamify the process with a progress bar on the top that says, hey, you've earned free shipping, add X product to your cart, and you'll get a free gift as well. We've seen that also increase the percentage of people who follow through. So those are just a few things. Make sure that cart page, whether it's a slider or it's a page itself, is fully optimized. Because if you're not at 40 to 45%, this is where we see a lot of brands losing, because a lot of people just neglect the cart page. So that could be a huge win for you guys. And now that we've gotten someone to the checkout page, rub your hands together. This is where the money's made. You've done most of the selling. You've gotten people to go through phase 1, 2, and 3. Now you just gotta get them to pull out their credit card and purchase your product. So right now on Shopify, if you're on the regular plan, you can't customize your checkout page. If you're on Shopify Plus, there's a lot of options in terms of, adding social proof, adding your USPs, adding money back guarantees, all that type of good stuff. Now, what you can do from just a strategy standpoint is ask yourself, have I done enough to build the intent so high? Have I done such a good job increasing the value to price discrepancy that people are at a phase where this has almost become a no-brainer and they're 100% bought in taking that next step if you're just on a regular Shopify plan? And that is what most brands don't do. So again, it starts with you understanding you need to really kill it and over-index in all those other steps prior to the checkout page, so you can increase the checkout to actual purchase rate, which equates to your conversion rate, which right now in e-commerce, the average is around 2 to 2.4%. So if you do those, 4 things, you position yourself for a lot more success, you make a lot more money. But again, it starts off by understanding that each and every page has one job. So identify the biggest point of drop off and the part of the funnel that has the lowest conversion rate. Focus on exclusively just fixing that component, at least for now, and then repeat this exercise and find the second weakest link and do it all over again. That is how we have changed businesses from a CRO standpoint. No guessing, no hoping, no pleading. This is taking quantitative metrics and turning it into gold. Guys, this is Cam from SolveX Media. If you guys need help when it comes to turning more visitors into paying customers with a strategic and systematic approach, feel free to reach out to me and let's do some magic together. I will talk to you soon. See you on the greener side.